let's go. Calm down, okay? Breathe in, breathe out, all right? And enjoy this Sleepy Hollow hit from Derek Williams. Bang! Somebody get the caution tape out. Anyway, after that chalk outline hit, I am actually pretty sad to see Derek Williams, 5-star safety, number 2 Louisiana player on my board, go to Texas, okay? So we're going to discuss the pros and cons of this, but the reason why I say calm down is that people are just freaking out over this. And full disclosure, I hope these kids that are getting destroyed by this guy are healthy, safe, whatever. Now, first thing is that it doesn't look good, and let me just go ahead and throw this out there. We are interviewing Charles Alexander tonight. It is still running back week, but I feel like this video is very important because I've gotten a lot of DMs about this, so I will address it. Now, first thing, before I get into my evaluation about Derek Williams, if you go look at 5-star data, especially from Louisiana players, it actually is really, really good. If you land a 5-star Louisiana player, you get an extremely high floor. Of the 30-ish 5-star players since 2000 from Louisiana, only 2 turned out to not be any good at all. Most of them, of course, went to the NFL. Now, you take a look over the past decade, top 10 Louisiana prospects hit at a really high rate. 6 out of every 10 on average, 63 out of the 100 that I counted over the past decade, turned out to be good players. And on average, 3 out of every 10 turned out to be superstars. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's really hard to be a superstar. I have a pretty high bar that you have to reach to be a superstar. So, obviously, that includes the Devin Whites, the Jarvis Landrys, and so on and so on. So, when you get a top Louisiana, 5-star, top 10 Louisiana player, you want to try your best to land that player. And Derek Williams is a really special talent in my mind. Now, we get to the next aspect of this, optics of this, right? All these Louisiana players in 2023 that have not committed to LSU, of course, includes Arch Manning, Eli Holstein, so on and so on. So, yeah, that does kind of stink to look at that, but let me actually calm you down just a little bit, okay? I acknowledge all those things are bad. And as far as the specific recruitment of Derek Williams, from what I was told from 2 people close to the situation, Texas just did a really good job recruiting him, telling him, you're our number 1 safety, you're our guy, you're a year 1 guy, you're our top priority, and there is some name, image, and likeness aspects to it, as many of you would expect when it comes to any 5-star recruits. Just a wink, wink, nod, nod towards, hey, we're definitely going to take care of you. So there's an aspect of it as well. I would be remiss. Is that how you say that word? I can barely talk today. I would be an idiot not to at least include that in there. But let's actually, once again, calm everybody down. First thing here is there is no such thing as a must-get recruit. I don't know how many times I have to say that, especially on the defensive side of the football, which is the less important side of the football. Now, there are some players out there that truly do move the needle, but it honestly is kind of random when you have those kind of players. Like, let's take Jamar Chase, for instance. It was kind of a miracle that he ended up at LSU, right? He was committed to Kansas, and then he was committed to Florida, and then Jim McElwain got fired, and then LSU lucked into landing him. Now, they did some good recruiting, and it did help. He lived in New Orleans, but the list goes on and on. Joe Burrow, obviously it was miraculous that he ended up at LSU as an Ohio State transfer. No one expected him to be that level of a transcendent player. So when you think of the most transcendent LSU players, the upper echelon, tier 1, you got to absolutely have this guy in your team. A lot of them were mid-tier 4-stars, if we're being honest, okay? Now, of course, there are some elite 5-stars like a Jamal Adams and obviously Leonard Fournette that we expected that, and you really needed to get those guys. But the bottom line is nobody in this sport of football, when there's a gazillion different players, is a must-get recruit. And if Derek Williams played quarterback, we would be talking about this different. But remember, he is a safety, where LSU does have 2 safeties committed. They might have a few more out of the state of Louisiana that might commit, and they also have a corner committed. Yes, they need to get younger at the position. Yes, they need more than just 3 defensive backs in this class, but I do think Brian Kelly will land some other defensive backs. Once again, I go back to it. If this were a case that LSU just simply didn't recruit Derek Williams hard enough, then I'll be the first to tell you that that is simply unacceptable. But at the same time, if you look at this from LSU and Brian Kelly's perspective, they aren't probably melting down themselves, because they look at their safety numbers and they're like, okay, we got 2 safeties. They're both 4 stars in Doherty and Yates. We're doing okay. And we got Dalen Austin, a really good corner out of California, committed. So, yes, those kids are taking other official visits, but it's not the be-all, end-all. We feel pretty good about our defensive back room, and LSU honestly should feel that way about their defensive back room right now. So, yes, it's not good. I did see a photo of Brian Kelly and Derek Williams together on I believe, an unofficial visit a few weeks ago. So, at least LSU attempted to try and get this done. Now, the second thing I would say is, yes, the optics of this doesn't look good, but if you do follow recruiting somewhat closely like I do, you would know that a lot of these top 10 Louisiana players were trending elsewhere, even during the Orgeron regime. Arch Manning was never going to LSU. Eli Holstein was committed to Texas A&M and then Alabama. Did he ever really want to go to LSU? I don't know. Tackett Curtis is a guy that is trending really hard away from LSU. If any of you have read up on that kid's situation, that is another case where more than likely he's not going to go to LSU. The same thing is somewhat kind of true for Jaden Ausberry. So those are just 4 players right there, along with Derek Williams. Half of the class, LSU really never had a shot of landing with the new regime, okay? So keep that in mind, that LSU was already not looking good for 5 of these players, okay? And the next part about that is Ed Orgeron's recruiting class in 2017. His first full year, he only landed a few of the top 10 Louisiana players in that cycle. And he did, though, land some really good Louisiana 3-stars, Justin Jefferson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Patrick Queen wasn't the highest-rated recruit. He was outside the Louisiana top 10 that year. And it wasn't the be-all, end-all. In fact, in the grand scheme of things, the 2017 recruiting class for LSU ended up being one of the best of all times when it comes to hit rate. And then in 2018, they actually did a better job of recruiting the state of Louisiana. And, well, it turned out to be one of the worst recruiting classes outside of Terrace Marshall and Jamar Chase. And once again, they are like Derek Williams in that they're more elite players, but still, once again, you can miss. You can miss on some elite guys. Now, if, once again, they lose Shelton Sampson, Lance Hurd, and a few other the really good Louisiana players, that's when you should start to panic. But for the most part, there is no need to panic, which leads me into my final portion of this. I have built this channel on you guys feeling however you want to feel about LSU football. If you don't like Brian Kelly and the direction that LSU is going, that's perfectly fine if you share that on this channel. I'm not one of those guys that says, shut up and leave, just fall in line, so-and-so. Feel however you want to feel about LSU. But I will say this, and I really do mean this, and I mentioned this on Blake's show last night. It's crazy to melt down over this. You're sounding like Florida fans over the weekend with Jaden Rashada, okay? Don't melt down about a coach who has yet to actually coach a game. Now, if LSU gets routed by Florida State in week 1, I can somewhat see you feeling a little bit different about everything here. So, yeah, that's an actual football game, though. This is recruiting. Remember, Derek Williams is not signed pen to paper Maybe Texas goes 5-7 again this next year, and he says, I don't want to go play for the Burnt Orange. Yeah, they got good barbecue, but I want to stay close at home and play for LSU. It's not over. This is not over for this kid. Even though Texas more than likely will land him, it's still not over. So the fact that so many people are melting down over this just is not good optics at all. Two things can be true at once. You can recognize that LSU is a better program when they land these type of players and when they don't land them, but at the same time say, calm down, Brian Kelly knows what he's doing, because I do want to include one little factoid here, that LSU is getting a lot, and I mean a lot, of really good offensive linemen on campus. And that seems to be a big focus right now for LSU, is getting that offensive line rebuilt. And when you look at transfer portal data, offensive linemen don't transfer as much as skilled position guys. So maybe there's something to Brian Kelly really getting a national blueprint and getting a lot of the elite offensive linemen on campus. Now, you could do two things at once. You can, recruit every position, text them every day, do whatever. But that seems to be a big focus, and hopefully, Brad Davis and Brian Kelly is able to land a couple of these elite offensive linemen along with Lance Hurd. So, it's not as if LSU is just being lazy here or they're not trying hard. Understand that all these other schools want these Louisiana thoroughbreds because they know they can go out there and win you national championships. So there's a little bit of good and bad in this, but once again, no such thing as a must-get recruit. Calm down, okay? So I did this running back study that I spent a month doing research on. It'll be floating in your face in just a second. It is Power Hour LSU. Bam! And tonight, what are we doing tonight? Oh, we're doing tacos. Let's go.